Shri Swaminarayan Bhagavanani Jai, Akshar Purushottam Maharajani Jai, Gunatitanand Swami Maharajani Jai, Bhagat Ji Maharajani Jai, Shastri Ji Maharajani Jai, Yogiji Maharajani Jai, Pramukh Swami Maharajani Jai, Mahant Swami Maharaj Jai. Everyone on this world, no matter where they live, everyone will experience some types of problems or issues in life. But when they face those problems, what's the result? Many people go into stress, tension, people become angry, hatred, broken relationships. And from all these problems, all these different types of experiences happen. But whenever you face any problem or any issue, how can you experience bliss? How can you experience happiness? How can you see good in others? Antarma ananda fuwara chute, how can you experience that? But we are all very lucky because we've attained this satsang, because we have the Satpurush, that all of our life's problems can be solved when we look at their lives. And for this problem, the answer is very simple. The answer is tolerance and forgiveness. When we look at the life of Yogiji Maharaj, Gunatitanand Swami, Bhagatji Maharaj, Shastriji Maharaj, Yogiji Maharaj, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, and Mahant Swami Maharaj, they've all been put in very adverse circumstances, yet they never taken that path which we discussed. Why? Because they had that virtue of tolerance and forgiveness in their life, and that's why they never had to go down that path. They've experienced much worse than what we'll experience ever in our life, but yet they were happy and they were content. Once, Gunatitanand Swami, he was traveling with Santos during Vichan in Juna Savara village. And it was a new village, and when the Santos entered that village, the darbar that was staying there, Uga Kuman, he found out that Swaminarayan Santos are in this village right now. So he told his men to get rid of them at any cost. So they all went out on their horses and they chased the Santos and they started hitting them, beating them, and they got them out of the village. And when they were outside of the village, the Santos, Gunatitanand Swami, there was a lake nearby, they went and they sat there. But when you look at that scene, all the Santos had bumps and bruises. Some were even bleeding. At that time, there were some villagers who came to the lake and they saw this. All these Santos were sitting there, all in pain. And at that time, they said that no wonder the darbar here doesn't have any children. When he beats innocent Santos like this, why would God bless him with a child? At that time, Gunatitanand Swami overheard this. When he realized that the darbar there didn't have a child, he told the Santos that were sitting in front of him, that were injured, that were bleeding, that were hurting, that let's pray that this darbar, he gets blessed with a child. If anyone in this situation would never take that kind of decision or do such type of tolerance, but Gunatitanand Swami, he tolerated and he forgave and he prayed for that darbar. But that's why Gunatitanand Swami, his whole entire life, even with all the problems, issues he faced, he was always in Akhand Brahm Anand. And he's teaching us that if we tolerate, we can experience that same type of Akhand Brahm Anand. Once, in June of 1967, Yogiji Maharaj was in Gondal. And it was just 4 or 5 days after his Amrit Mahotsav was celebrated. Thousands of people had came and celebrated with great fanfare. 4 or 5 days later, there was 2 Juna Mandir sadhus who came to meet Yogiji Maharaj. And when they came to meet Yogiji Maharaj, all of a sudden he told Ambalal Bey, who's standing there, then go to the kothar and fill 2 big baskets with prasad. So without asking any questions, he went to the kothar and he took these 2 big baskets and he filled all the prasad that was in there. There was sata, jalebi, magas, mesub, and all the different types of prasad. And he filled up the 2 baskets and he brought it back. Yogiji Maharaj saw these baskets and he said, okay, this is not enough. Go fill up with more prasad. So he went back, he filled up with more prasad and he brought it back. And then Yogiji Maharaj gave 1 basket to each of those sadhus that came to meet him. And then they were about to leave. And as soon as they were about to leave, Yogiji Maharaj told the Hari Bhaktas that were standing nearby, go and drop them off to Juna Mandir. So then the Hari Bhaktas went to drop them off. Everyone saw this and everyone was surprised. Okay, why did Yogiji Maharaj take care of these 2 santos so well? And then when they came to find out, they asked him, they said, okay, these are my old friends. Juna bhai bandh che. But then after finding out, the Hari Bhaktas realized, okay, who were these 2 sadhus? Though a few years before that, once Yogiji Maharaj and Vignanda Swami, they were doing Vichan in Keriagam. And while they were doing Vichan, they went to the mandir there. But when they were at that mandir, it was these same 2 sadhus at that time who found out that Yogiji Maharaj and Vignanda are swimming at the mandir. So they took the 2 santos, they took Yogiji Maharaj and Vignanda Swami, they beat them and they kicked them out of the mandir at that time. Those were the 2 santos that Yogiji Maharaj just took care of, gave them prasad, and made sure that they made it back to their mandir safe and sound. From this prasang, we can realize that Yogiji Maharaj, he tolerated. Not just did he tolerate, but he forgave them. And he didn't hold any type of grudge with them. But that's why Yogiji Maharaj has said in the Yogi Gita that Sahan kare tena antarma ananda fuwara chute. That by tolerating, you'll experience a fountain of bliss inside of you. Now we think that if you get beat, if you get insulted, that this is the type of experience that you will have by tolerating. Yogiji Maharaj wasn't just Amnam just talking. But he wasn't like us. We just talked the talk, but Yogiji Maharaj, he walked the walk. His Vani and his Vartan, they were one. He didn't live a double standard life. And he's the same person that said, Sahan kare ej ekantik. That by tolerating, you become ekantik. He said that Kshama kare to shanti thashe. By forgiving, you'll attain peace and happiness in life. So when we look at our own lives, if we tolerate, then what will we experience? On a personal level, if we tolerate, one thing that we will realize is the relationships that you have with your people, whether it be your family, your friends, people at work, those relationships will improve. Because right now, you might experience that people stay away from you, people ignore you. That when you sent a message on WhatsApp, those blue ticks never came up. But why? You probably didn't realize, but you had this one big sign on your back that said highly inflammable. Meaning that you have no tolerance level, and because of that, no one replied to your messages, no one wanted to be your friend. But you realize that those that don't tolerate, no one wants to hang out with them, no one wants to invite them to their houses. On the other side, those who do tolerate, everyone wants to be around them. Everybody wants to associate with them. And think about yourself. The friends that you have, what qualities do they have in their life? Well, you probably can see that they have tolerance level in their life. They tolerate people's words, they tolerate our own attitudes, they tolerate our actions towards them. But those who have tolerance in their life, everyone wants to be around them. On the other hand, if you don't tolerate, then what happens? What effect does it have on you? If you don't tolerate, the first thing that happens is your mind becomes polluted. Tamaro man bagre che. And what does that mean? That means you start having abhav for everyone. You can't stay with everyone. You start becoming a loner. You start looking at everyone's faults. Nobody wants to hang out with you. And in short, you yourself are making yourself miserable. Because no person or no situation can make you dukhi, can make you miserable. But it's in your own hands. Once there was this Guruji, and he was teaching all of his disciples in his ashram. It was the last day, and on the last day he said, if anyone has any questions, this is your time to ask. At that time, there was one person who thought he was smart, and he wanted to fool the Guruji. So he came into the sabha, and he had a small bird in his hand. And he told the Guruji, Guruji, I want you to answer my question. And he said, what's your question? And he said, I have this small bird in my hand. Tell me, is it dead or is it alive? When all the other disciples sitting there, they heard this question, they thought that he has stumped the Guruji. He won't be able to answer this question. Because all the kids sitting there, they knew if he says that the bird is alive, then all he will do is he'll crush his hand and he'll open it and say, okay, look, it's dead. And if he says that the bird is dead, then all he's going to do is open his hands and the bird will fly away and he'll be alive. So when he asked this question, everyone was wondering, okay, what is the Guruji going to answer? But at that time, the Guruji said, it's in your hands. Whatever you want to do, if you want to make it alive or if you want to make it dead, it's in your hands. In the same way, if we want to become happy or if we want to become miserable, it's in our hands. There's no situation, there's no other person on this world who can make us happy or who can make us miserable. The second thing, if you don't tolerate, then what's going to happen is that you want to take revenge. If someone insults you, someone makes fun of you in front of your friends, in front of your colleagues, then you want to take revenge. But also, when wanting to take revenge, at the whole time period, you're going to become miserable and you're going to become dukhi. Why? Because you won't be able to take revenge right away. It's going to take time to plan it out, and as you take time to plan it out, until then, you're going to become dukhi in your mind. Every time you see that person, you're going to become dukhi in your mind. Every time someone talks good about that person, you're going to become dukhi in your mind. So until you don't take revenge, you're going to be miserable every time you hear about that person, every time you see that person, anytime you walk in front of that person, you become miserable in your mind. But even after you come up with a plan, even after you take revenge, whether it be sending a message on WhatsApp in your group, whether it be not attending a party that he invited you to, but once you take revenge, what's going to happen? For those 2 minutes, you're going to experience tamoguni happiness. Yes, I got back at him. But then, after that's finished, what's the next step? For the rest of your life, you're going to experience the same thing, because whenever you see that person, whenever someone talks about him, you're still going to experience dukh in your minds. So in short, if you don't tolerate, if you don't have that San Shakti, then you will always be dukhi in your life. Not just you, anyone in this world who doesn't tolerate. If they don't have this quality in their life, they're going to be miserable for the rest of their lives. And on the other hand, one who tolerates, one who can give forgiveness, they'll always be happy. We've seen it in the lives of our Guru Parampara. Yogiji Maharaj, he tolerated for 17 years. In the 17 years he tolerated, we wouldn't be able to tolerate that much for 17 minutes. But because he tolerated and because Yogiji Maharaj, he forgave and he forgot about it, because of that, he was always happy. And our Satpurush, when we look at their lives, we can realize what height they're living at. Even though they're this great, yet they can forgive the smallest person. In 2015, Mahant Swami Maharaj, he came here to Australia and New Zealand for Vitran. On the 3rd of May, Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Auckland. At that time, there was a Bal Balika Shibir going on, My Mandir, My Home. So Mahant Swami Maharaj, he came to the Bal Shibir. At that time, there was probably maybe 15-20 Badaks and maybe 15-20 Balikas in the Shibir. So he came on the stage, and then Mahant Swami, he gave Mahant Swami Maharaj's introduction, and then Mahant Swami Maharaj gave Ashirvad in English. And Mahant Swami Maharaj gave Ashirvad for maybe about 15 minutes. But while he was giving Ashirvad, at that time, it was not small Badaks, and they were sitting there on the chairs. But while he was talking, at that time, the kids being kids, right? They were messing around with each other. They were drawing on their pieces of paper. They were talking. They were playing. They were getting out of their seats. But Mahant Swami Maharaj continued his whole entire Ashirvad. And after he finished his Ashirvad, Mahant Swami Swami came to take the mic away from him. But when he came to take the mic away, Mahant Swami Maharaj asked Mahant Swami Swami, did the kids understand what I was saying? And Mahant Swami Swami, yes, Swami, they understood everything. And Mahant Swami Swami went back to the podium. And then he started asking the audience, okay, what did Mahant Swami Maharaj talk about? So one after another, they raised their hands, and the first kid raised his hand, and he said, Mahant Swami Maharaj talked about the prasang about Chandu. The second kid raised his hand, and he said one thing that Mahant Swami Maharaj talked about. The third kid raised his hand, the fourth kid, and everyone started saying one after one different points of what Mahant Swami Maharaj talked about in his Ashirvad. 5, 6 kids gave answers, and then Mahant Swami Maharaj, he told Mahant Swami Swami, okay, give me the mic. So he called for the mic, and he took the mic in his hand. And then all of a sudden, Mahant Swami Maharaj said to the buttocks, please forgive me. And Mahant Swami Maharaj said that I thought that none of you were listening, but I was wrong, so please forgive me that I thought that no one was paying attention to what I said. So Mahant Swami Maharaj, even though they were just buttocks, but he asked for forgiveness because he thought he made a mistake, that they weren't paying attention to me. This is the type of forgiveness, kshama bhavna, that we can see in the Satpurush's life. One who has tolerance and forgiveness, it's like water. Water meaning what? No matter what type of utensil you take, no matter what shape it is, but if you put water in it, then water becomes set in that utensil. In the same way, if you have tolerance and forgiveness in your lives, then you'll become set anywhere you go and with anyone that you associate yourself with. And we can see that Pramukh Swami Maharaj had that tolerance and that forgiveness in his life, and that's why Pramukh Swami Maharaj became set in everybody's heart. We know that Pramukh Swami Maharaj, whether it be the 85 Tula, where after that Tula he got insulted, or whether it be the Bhuj earthquake where we were helping everyone, yet other organizations didn't help us out in the times of need. But in all those prasangs, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, he tolerated and he forgave them. And because of that, we can see Pramukh Swami was set in everyone's heart. And when did we see that? When 2016, when Pramukh Swami Maharaj passed away. At that time, more than 2.1 million people came for Swami's final darshan. And not all of them were satsangis. But why did they all come there? Because Pramukh Swami Maharaj was set in everyone's heart because of that virtue he had in his life of tolerance and forgiveness. So if we have tolerance and forgiveness in our life, then we'll become set no matter where we go and no matter what we do. But tolerance isn't just a physical thing, but it's mental. And it's something that comes from the inside. Because it's not just tolerating an incident, but we have to be able to tolerate other people's swabhavs, their attitudes. And if we don't tolerate other people's swabhavs or attitudes, then we take that track of depression and stress and tension. But how can we stay sthir? How can we stay stable in our life, even while interacting with other people and dealing with other people's attitudes? There's 3 simple ways of staying sthir. The first thing is accept people for who they are. Right? Whatever, we know that certain people have certain attitudes. We know that some people have certain habits. Whether it be the way that they eat, if they make noise the way that they eat, or when you talk to them, they always speak fast, or whatever work that they do, they don't want to listen to other people. But if you understand that this person's behavior is such, his attitude is such, and if you accept them for who they are, then no matter what type of interaction you have with them, you'll be able to stay sthir. So the first thing you have to do is accept people for who they are. The second thing is look at yourself. Do some introspection and realize that we're not perfect, right? No one on this world is perfect. But if you can look at yourself, realize the mistakes that you make, and try to improve on those mistakes, then you'll be able to stay sthir. And the third thing is try to understand others. Whether it be at work, whether it be at home, whether it be at mandir. Wherever you go, if you can understand people from who they are, and also understand people that they're not all in the same situation as us. When you meet someone, whether it be at work or whether it be at mandir, you don't know what side of the bed they woke up in the morning. You don't know if they had a nice healthy breakfast or if they had their cha in the morning. But whatever situation they came from, if they came from having some type of argument with their family, if they got in an accident, because of that they might be disturbed. And if we don't try to understand them from where they're coming from, then when we see them, we won't be able to interact with them in a nice, peaceful way. But trying to understand others from where they come from, if you have that type of understanding, then you'll be able to stay sthir. So tolerance and forgiveness is very important, but not just when dealing with other people, but also when dealing with yourself. You have to be able to forgive yourself for the mistakes that you make. Because in life, everyone makes mistakes. No one's perfect. But you have to be able to forgive yourself, forget about it, and move on. And if you do so, then you won't fall into those ditches. And if you look at everyone in this world, everyone experiences mistakes. Yes, everyone sets high goals for themselves. They want to reach the pinnacle of life. But yet, everyone who's reached great heights in life, they've all first experienced failure. So that's something that we have to accept, that look, in our life, we're going to experience failure. Things won't always go your way. You won't be number one in your company. You won't always get that job offer from the company that you want to go and be and work with. But if you can accept it, okay, look, there's going to be failure in my life, it's going to happen. If you can set that in your mind, when that failure comes in your life, if you can forgive yourself, forget about it, and move on, then you won't face any type of tension. But if you're not able to forgive yourself and move on, then you yourself are going to put yourself in that misery, in that dukh. So you have to be prepared to accept that failure is going to happen, and accept it and move on. So in this way, we can see that in our lives, it's our own swabhavs that are the things that stop us from having those relationships with other people. But we have to realize that we won't be able to change other people's swabhavs. That's not in our hands. But we can only change ourselves. So if we are not able to change ourselves, then you have to realize that we won't be able to get along with everyone in this world. Not everyone's going to be your friend. Not everyone's going to invite you to their parties. But you have to realize that you won't be able to please everyone in this world. And if you can accept that, then you'll be able to stay happy. So there's one thing that we have to know: change the things you can, meaning yourself and the situations you put yourself in. Don't change the things you can, other people and situations where you shouldn't put yourself in, and have the wisdom to know the difference. And if you can do this, then you'll be able to tolerate, forgive, and move on and experience that bliss. So today, from the Satpurush's life, we realize that the quality of tolerance and forgiveness is very important if we want to experience that bliss which they are experiencing, the bliss of Bhagwan. And we can do that, but we have to tolerate for how long? For our entire life. Because the Satpurush, they didn't just tolerate for a few years, but they tolerated for their whole entire life. So we have to be prepared to tolerate for our entire life, and also to forgive for our entire life. And if we can do so, then we'll experience that same bliss. So today, let's pray to Maharaj and Swami that there may be someone in your life that you might not get along with, you might have some type of grudge with, but try to put it into practice. Think of that person, call that person up, ask for forgiveness, and forget about it and move on. And when you do that, you'll experience that same bliss that Mahant Swami Maharaj experiences right now. You'll experience it for those 2 minutes, and after that, you'll become as light as a feather. So today, let's pray to Maharaj and Swami that if we want to be happy in life, no matter what problems or issues we face, we have to have the quality of tolerance and forgiveness. And if we have that quality, then no matter what situation we're put in, no matter what people come into our lives, we'll be able to deal with them and experience that bliss of Bhagwan. Shri Swaminarayan Bhagavan Jai.
Thank you for joining us today and listening with such devotion. Bhagavan Swaminarayan has taught us the power of listening to Katha. It purifies our mind and brings us closer to God. So if this Katha helped you, give it a like, subscribe for more, and share it with someone you care about. Until next time, Jai Swaminarayan.